You're listening to Mom AF with Kaeli
and Jessica.
This is the fiercely comfortable podcast for moms who are done pretending everything's fine when it's actually a dumpster fire.
We're two moms who happen to be nurses and who we've seen it all. Postpartum breakdowns, mom rage, identity loss, and a whole lot of what the
We're here to keep it real with laughter, tears, probably too much trauma dumping, and just enough chaos to make you feel right at home.
So grab your cold coffee that you forgot in the microwave, park your kid in front of that electronic babysitter, and let's normalize this mess together. On the spot, who's your hear me out person? Have you seen the hear me out cakes? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So they take a picture of somebody you wouldn't normally consider, but hear me out.
Oh my gosh. I have to think on it. I feel like I've thought of these before, and now I'm like, I can't think of a single one, but
I told you weren't ready.
I'm not ready. Hold on, give me a minute.
Let her cook.
Tramp from Lady and the Tramp. Hear me out. Hear me out. Tramp from Lady and the Tramp. Are you telling
Riz.
me? He's got the Riz. So much Riz.
Okay.
Who would be your hear me out?
Are you ready?
I hope.
Shrek. And not in the human form. I mean the green, sexy man that he is. First of all, he's a good father. He's a good man. If you get kidnapped, he's going to come save you. He's a dedicated. He's got his own land. He's got a nice boulder. And there's waffles in the morning. What could go wrong?
That is a nice boulder.
And in the morning, I'll make you waffles.
I really wasn't expecting you to say Shrek, but I feel like that's the beauty of Hear Me Out. None of it's really expected.
He's daddy. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the trigger warnings. This week's episode contains honest and unfiltered discussions about postpartum sex, painful intercourse, body image, vaginal trauma, breastfeeding challenges, and partner disconnection. We also share personal experiences with pelvic floor dysfunction, emotional distress, and relationship breakdowns after birth. Please listen with care, especially if you're in a sensitive postpartum period or navigating sexual trauma. You are not alone, and we're holding space for every version of your healing.
So I think it's incredibly important that obviously there are so many obvious reasons as to why you don't want to be having sex after having a baby. But there's also ones that you can take credit for that are happening behind the scenes, such as your hormone changes. So we are definitely going to talk about all of those today because I find them incredibly important. And it's so validating once you hear like, oh, I'm not crazy. I don't just want to have sex. It's my body reacting to the trauma it just went through after having baby. So Jessica, can you tell me a little bit about some of the hormones in our body and some of the top ones that we should really focus on after having baby?
So 3 important hormones when we're talking about our fertility and our postpartum journey. Our first one is estrogen. It boosts our mucus producing cells, which really lubricate your vaginal lining.
Which we love.
We love the lube, and if we don't have enough, we're going to borrow some. It keeps things soft, supple, well lubricated. It makes your vaginal walls thick and elastic, and it keeps it rich with blood flow. And this is where your sensitivity comes from. So when your estrogen drops, your vagina can feel like dry and less elastic, and it just doesn't feel good because of decreased blood flow. And if you're breastfeeding, the hormone prolactin is super high, and prolactin suppresses your estrogen. So if you're breastfeeding, that kind of goes hand in hand as to decreased libido, decreased sensation, and just overall don't effing touch me right now.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like prolactin is essentially a bully to estrogen because it's like, oh, we need to feed this baby. We need to supply baby. Take a seat, estrogen. I'm coming in. We're producing all this milk. We're not really worried about your vagina right now.
Which is the opposite of me and my brain because I'm always worried about my vagina.
Yes. And then we think we're crazy because we're like, okay, well, my vagina is so dry now. And like, what do I do about it?
So you also have progesterone going on, which is my favorite hormone. It literally is like the relaxing hormone. It has this calming effect on you. Like if you're thinking of like kind of that stereotypical like pregnant woman who's looking like romantically at her belly. It's because she's like exuding all of that progesterone. So that's the progesterone is produced by the corpus luteum, and it lives on your ovary after ovulation, and then your placenta creates it later. So it prepares and maintains your uterine lining for implantation, supports early pregnancy. And for those of my girlies who don't make enough progesterone in early pregnancies, you know, it can be very dangerous. You can lose the pregnancy, and then you'll have to supplement by shoving stuff in your vagina, which is great. And then you walk around all day and you leak it out.
Such a good time.
No, it's not. And it also does the balancing with the estrogen to prevent overgrowth of your endometrial lining. And it stabilizes your mood and your energy. And after you have that baby, your progesterone goes from super high to gone. So then you're going to find you're fatigued, irritable, you've got mood swings, all of which are going to impact your intimacy and your libido.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like all of these hormones affect you in ways that, if you're not aware of, just make you feel like you're insane.
For sure. And then obviously we did talk a little bit about that prolactin, and what we know is that it suppresses your ovulation, which again lowers your estrogen. It's associated with the mothering mode or mating mode. Translation, you may be more interested in bonding with your baby than bonding in the bedroom. But that increases your oxytocin, which is your love hormone. And, you know, you get that with your skin to skin, and that makes your prolactin rise, which makes your milk come out. So it helps you feel your emotional closeness to your baby.
Yes.
But many women feel touched out by the end of the day. Like they have nothing left, and their husband's like, hello. And you're like, goodbye.
Truly, we're like, don't talk to me. Don't touch me. You are just so incredibly burnt out. But then there's like the obvious reasons that you might not want to have sex. You're caring for a newborn. Like, alarms ringing. You are caring for a brand new baby. You are so burnt out from breastfeeding, the thoughts of, is my baby breathing while it's napping? And that myth of take a nap while your baby naps doesn't really happen, because you are just looking at baby the whole time saying, okay, what next? So you're burnt out and tired.
And I do want to make a disclaimer, full transparency. I wanted to have sex. Like before that 6-week period was up, like mentally, emotionally, I was like, I'm ready. Physically, it was not going to happen. And not for lack of trying. And there wasn't enough lube in the world. It was just my body wasn't ready. So, you know, there's a difference between timing of when is it safe to have sex versus when can your body allow you. So, Kaeli, what's the standard prescribed time before you can go make the maritals?
So from a medical standpoint, it's usually recommended that you wait at least 6 weeks after delivery before having sex. So that way you're not affecting stitches, you're not tearing anything. And even if you have a cesarean section, the abdominal muscles and the stitches that you have from your incision, you don't want to risk ruining or hurting any of that, because that just prolongs all types of healing. And that's just not something that you're going to want to do. You want to give time for your cervix to close back up. Because remember, you just went from, if you had a vaginal delivery, you just went from your cervix being 10 centimeters dilated. So it needs time to go back down to its normal size. If you, again, had a C-section, you need your incision to heal back up. You have all that lochia coming out. And for some people, that's incredibly heavy. It can be a lot of bleeding.
That's the grossest word.
That's what it is. It's lochia. Blood. It's called, the bleeding after delivery is called lochia. It's coming from your uterus. And it takes some time for that to stop. And it goes from that bright red color to that yuck brown color, but it's totally normal. And that can take 6 weeks. We want all of your tissue to heal. But it can take up to 6 weeks, but also, or it can take 6 weeks, I should say. It can also take longer. It all depends on your body. So it can be earlier than that or later.
Even for like, we would have women in the ICU who would have complications after labor, and they'd have to get like uterine ablations, or like their arteries were, I don't know. I don't even know what was going on, but like we would have an OB nurse come to ICU to check on their all that stuff, because I was like, I don't even know what lochia is. This is on you people. I'm going to keep this woman alive. You take care of the uterus.
Yeah, sometimes there's risk of infection weeks after, and you don't even realize it because a piece of placenta has decided to stay inside of your uterus, and that can cause more bleeding. So making sure that you're completely healed before sex is really important.
And also at that 6-week appointment is when you can get on birth control. So super important you don't miss that appointment.
Yes, if that's what you want.
Sure. I know that there was a lot of misinformation, I feel like, especially from like my mother. And she was like, well, if you're breastfeeding, you can't get pregnant. If you're breastfeeding, you can't get pregnant. If you go on the internet, you're going to find out. If you're breastfeeding, you can't get pregnant. No, I think that's a lie that they told us to like increase the birth rates.
That's
like,
such bad advice.
They're like, yeah, you know, if you're breastfeeding, you totally won't get pregnant. But we do have car seats on sale right now. So you may, you know, need them.
I've never heard that. And I'm so glad that I hadn't heard that, because that is harmful information to give to people.
Oh, absolutely. Like, you can ovulate at any time. So, you know, you're waiting for your first period while you're breastfeeding. Well, if you're having unprotected sex, you may never get it. And then you're assuming you're not getting your period because you're breastfeeding, but you're secretly growing, you know, your little tandem breastfeed buddy. So you're going to have one on each boob.
Tandem breastfeeding. I love that.
It's my dream, but it just didn't work out for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can picture you, 2 little babies up there. Just
I feel like it's like the vision of fertility, just to breastfeed amongst the world, but it just didn't work out for me. Unless I have surprise twins, and then I don't know. I feel like we might just bottle feed. We just might bottle feed then.
It sounds glorious until it happens.
Absolutely.
And then you're definitely never having sex.
Well, you see people who, like, the twins have different latches and have different boob preferences. Then you have one boob that's like, you know, a Q cup, and the other's an A cup, because just one twin is really messing you up.
Oh, leave it to a child to just ruin your boobs.
All right, so let's talk about my dry vajango. So low estrogen is going to make your vagina dry, especially when breastfeeding. So using a water-based or silicone-based lubricant to reduce that friction and pain. You can also try a topical vaginal estrogen, which is generally safe during breastfeeding. There was a Cochrane review of that, and they did find that it was effective. Do you have any fun lube stories?
I don't have any fun lube stories, but I am a huge advocate for lubrication because it always just makes sex so much better. I believe that the more lubrication, the better. I use lubrication in my sex life because I love me a good time. And I do believe that it helps with increased sensitivity. It's just chef's kiss, everything you could dream of. The more lube, the better.
I don't have that lived experience, but I support
No?
you in having it.
We support all women here.
I make so much lubrication that if I add lube, my husband does not stay inside.
It's just a slippery
It's a
mess.
disaster. He winds up coming out and he's going to hit my pelvic bone or, you know, my back door, and I'm going to be crying and he's going to be crying. Yeah, it's too wet. I need less lubrication for me.
Oh.
Immediate postpartum? Sure. Now? Hell no. I'm trying to live.
For me now, as a nearly 35-year-old woman, I am on this journey of thinking that I might have Sjogren's, which could be for another episode. But I just have like no lubrication these days anywhere in my body. So I will take any lubrication. If I get a drop down there, I'm
girl.
praising the Lord for the lube that I have. Thank you for providing me still. Hug to it and some lube still, please. Just to make sure.
I support you in your wet girl dreams.
That's all I want. Let me have it.
I've tried the warming lube. Nah, that shit makes you feel like you're on fire. It hurts. I've never had one that felt good, where it didn't just I was like, I need to stop and go wash my junk in the bathroom sink. Give me a minute.
Yeah, warming, I genuinely just feel like it just scares me. I feel as though it would have, capsaicin or something in there that it's just gonna What else is it menthol? Like, why is it
I don't know,
warm?
it hurts.
I
But full
can't.
transparency, Mama didn't raise no quitter, and I'm gonna wash that off in the sink, and we're gonna get back to it, okay?
We are so opposite because if that happened to me, I'd say you can literally go find a wall to touch or something because it's not going to be me anymore. It can't be me. That's traumatizing. You're a real trooper.
I have needs. And just because you can't have penetrative sex doesn't mean you can't have other forms of sex before the 6 weeks.
This is so true. This is so true. And it also doesn't mean that you can't just have sex with yourself. Sometimes
Amen,
you just need
sister.
some clit stim, and that is A-okay.
Absolutely. And I don't feel like that's talked enough about.
Yeah.
Is that there's other ways to form intimacy. There's other ways to be close and have orgasms with your partner that aren't him, diving right into a place you just gave birth out of.
Yeah.
There's other ways to have that intimacy and that closeness. Like even I had to have a pelvic surgery, and the doctor called my husband. He's like, "Your wife is out of surgery now." And he goes, "Okay, how's she doing?" And he's like, "Oh, she's fine, but no sex for 6 weeks." And he goes, "Can I go down on her?" And the doctor's like, "Excuse me?"
But that's a real man.
My husband is like, "Listen, this is how I keep my marriage good. Okay, I'm not giving it up."
And that's important for people to hear because you're right. Not enough people hear, okay, or I should say, too many people hear, you need to wait 6 weeks to have sex. And all they think of is penetrative sex. All they think of is penis to vagina, and there can be nothing else. There are so many other avenues that you can take to make you feel connected to your partner. And you should explore all of those, and I'm sure you'll find something that'll draw you even closer than before.
Right, and this isn't to say that if you have, because people can tear up into their clitoral hood or, they can have significant tearing. If your tearing is comfortable enough and you're healed enough that your vulva will allow it to be touched, I think there's nothing wrong with having a little clit stim.
Clit stim 2025.
And if you're feeling like blowing your mans or doing anything, you guide that conversation.
But remember, this is all about you.
Absolutely.
There are some other things, though, that could be causing you to perhaps maybe not want to have sex. And you should always think about your pelvic floor. Jess, I'm going to have you talk about it because you have so much experience with this and it's going to come from the heart. So tell them what's up.
Well, we already went over the whole getting fisted by an old lady, and she was my pelvic floor therapist. But your pelvic floor muscles can cause pain. Like mine completely dislocated my SI joint, or you can have incontinence, which I guess I talked about because I was peeing myself, and prolapse, which I also have. So yeah, this can cause some significant issues, and your bladder can prolapse, your uterus can prolapse, your vagina can prolapse, your butthole can prolapse. You can have all of your organs of your pelvic floor all come out.
It all
Ideally
can
not
prolapse.
Simultaneously, hopefully you only have one problem, but for sure your doctor is probably not going to ask you if any of your organs are falling out. And this is something you're going to have to advocate for and be like, hey, something's not right. And, then they'll probably look after you mention it. But I've never had a doctor in any situation, during pregnancy or postpartum be like, hey, are any of your organs falling out? And I don't know if you have, Kaeli.
No, I haven't had any organs fall out. However, I was so swollen, it felt like it might have happened.
But did
And
your
I
doctor
still-
ask?
Oh, no, my doctor never asked. No.
Oh, right. And I think that's like a significant problem. And, as I said, I couldn't even orgasm without pain, and they gave that back. And I think this is so important to, they'll just say, oh yeah, do Kegels. Well, I had a muscle tear. There is no Kegel in the world that is going to make my muscle reattach. I need surgery. And when my doctor discovered that I had this prolapse, it's called a rectocele, her immediate response was, do you want more children? And I was like, yes. And she's like, cool, call me when you're done having kids and then we'll talk about surgery. There was no answer for me. There was no, well, let's try pelvic floor therapy. I had to ask. She just told me, when you're done having kids, well, then we'll worry about your pelvic floor. And I think this is a lot of women's experiences where they have problems and the doctor has no answer.
I think it's also important to note when you made the comment of just do Kegels, there are about 50% of women, and it could even be more, I should probably look up the statistic, that don't know how to properly do a Kegel. So just saying do a Kegel, a lot of people just use their abdominal muscles and it feels like they're pushing without somebody guiding you for that initial know how or this is how you do it. There are so many women who do it wrong. So going to see somebody to show you how to properly do it is entirely beneficial.
And they don't just do work on your vagina. You know, there was a lot of the actual physical therapy and how to do exercises to engage your core. A lot of women have issues with being quad dominant or, you know, having different muscles that don't fire correctly. And especially in the postpartum period where your abs have separated, your body has forgotten how to use those muscles appropriately. And so your pelvic floor therapist is going to show you how to do dead bugs and engage your core. Because if you do dead bugs and your core is not engaged, you're literally just like waving your feet and your hands in the air and you're like, oh, this isn't helping at all. It's important to have someone guide you who can understand what your body's doing and how it can help it improve.
Exactly. All right, Jess. Just because you are cleared for sex, does that mean that you're ready for sex?
No. You know, and as I said, for me personally, I tried before the 6-week period and my vagina was so swollen. It wouldn't have mattered if I used, you know, a Costco version of lube or if I went to P. Diddy's house. Don't put that in there.
I'm going to keep that. You know this.
You know, it wouldn't have mattered if I had all that baby oil. Nobody was getting in there. It was impossible. And even if you tried, it would have just been painful for both of us.
Yeah.
But many women experience fear or anxiety outside of just having no libido from your hormones. But then you're like, oh my God, my tits are saggy. I have stretch marks everywhere. My vagina's in the sink over there, you know, resting on some ice cubes. You know, there's just so much going on. And I think that open communication with your partner and then having that like enthusiastic consent every step of the way, because a lot of women have birth trauma and they have, you know, the memory of all these people's hands on them and going inside, and some doctors really like go elbow deep and touch you and
they really do.
You get traumatized. So having that enthusiastic consent every step of the way is hugely important. According to the Journal of Sexual Medicine, 83% of postpartum women resume sex by 6 months. And readiness was more tied to emotional comfort than physical healing alone. But if you're still in that 17%, that's like, we didn't have sex till a kid was like 2, 3. That's okay. This is your timeline. This is your body. I know personally I wouldn't be happy. If I don't have an orgasm pretty regularly, I'm going to treat you like shit. But if that's not your journey, that's okay too.
Yeah, I was part of that percentage that you just talked about. And I love that you say enthusiastic consent, because I had a terrible time feeling connected to my body. When I looked in the mirror, I was not happy with anything that I saw. I was so swollen. My boobs were so engorged all the time. It was 2 months after I had baby where I still looked pregnant. And I didn't feel sexy. I didn't feel confident. And whenever I asked my partner, like, hey, like, am I looking okay? I would get like, yeah, like you look great. But it was just like that, like, hey, yeah, you look great. And none of that makes you feel good. You want that enthusiastic, hey, like, I want you. I feel great about your body right now, because you kind of need that. Sometimes you might need that after pregnancy to make you be like, okay, I'm still feeling good about myself. I still look good. This is normal part of having a baby, is maybe feeling disconnected. And I felt that way for a very long time. And having enthusiastic consent was a huge part of my moving forward journey.
Absolutely. And like my ex, who is the father, the donor of my son, he hated breastfeeding and refused to touch me or look at my breasts. And he was like, well, I'll play with them once you're done breastfeeding. And I assure you, my breastfeeding journey outlasted that relationship. You know, it was like, I felt so much hatred for myself and being like, well, this is embarrassing and disgusting. And then when I had a baby with my husband, he's like, excuse the fuck out of me. I'm touching what I want to touch, obviously with enthusiastic consent, but there was a bit of like almost an emotional journey of coming from that point of view of hating myself and my body because someone else put that thought in my mind, and having my husband heal that trauma by playing with my big swollen boobies.
And I love that for you so much. I should edit. My partner was fantastic. Jay's dad was so great. It's just I had a really hard time with myself that he could tell me that I looked great, and I didn't believe it. I also had a lot of postpartum dealings that were hard for me at the time. So even if somebody else told me something, I was like, that's not true. And now it's time for Tales from the Reddit. Jess, tell me what your first tale is.
When I had my first, I was low on amniotic fluid. So they put a tube up there to fill me back up like a water balloon. Then took it out when it was time to push. Well, my doctor was sitting right front and center with a splash mask and waterproof clothes. My mom was at my left leg in her street clothes, and a nurse was at my right leg in regular scrubs. Neither of them got splash masks or rain gear like the doctor had. I pushed her head out, and in that gap between her chin and shoulders, where her neck was enough space for the liquid they filled me up with to shoot out like a geyser. It went from left to right, hitting my mom in the face, then arched over the doctor's head like a rainbow and hit the nurse in the face. The only person who was dry as a bone was the one in full rain gear. Watching this made me laugh, which then made the water spurt out with every jiggle of my giggle. My mom was screaming, "Stop laughing!" over and over in complete panic, and the nurse actually ran for cover. This, of course, made me laugh even more. Thank goodness for medication, and I just kept splashing all over the place, everywhere except for my doctor. He made it out dry as a bone.
Disgusting. Amniotic fluid grosses me out. I'm going to tell you a disgusting story that I could have died over. Actually, I cried. So I had a woman.
Is this a real story?
Yes, this is a real story. This happened to me.
Tale?
This is not, but I do have a Reddit tale as well. I have so many gross labor stories because I've been in hundreds of deliveries. I had a woman once who I was repositioning her in bed, and we were just kind of, I think we were sitting in a throne position, which means we were going to put her in a throne position. So she had her legs open, and I was adjusting the bed, and baby had come down really fast, and you could see the amniotic sac and the head right there. It popped. It like burst. She is polyhydramnios, so she had way too much fluid. Mind you, it was just my face. I was at her knee, just my face, and it popped. And this was the first time I had ever had fake eyelashes. I had went and gotten eyelashes done, and the amniotic fluid got all over my face, in my eye, and like the smell of it, I was audibly gagging. I teared up because I was like, this is so fucking disgusting. I cried after my shift, I had gone and rinsed out my eyes, but after my shift, I had driven so fast to a lash studio to get the lashes removed because I was just so skeeved out thinking that there was amniotic fluid stuck in the glue from the eyelashes. Now I will forever wear goggles. I should have been wearing goggles. I just wasn't. I just didn't think that her water was going to break in that moment, but it did. And this is why we always have safety goggles on so you don't get fluids in your eyes. But this is my Reddit story now. My husband is an engineer.
She's gonna blow past the end there.
It was gross. That's all that.
That's the day I started applying for different jobs.
I said, I love this, but I don't love it that much anymore because that's yuck. My story is, my husband is an engineer and has a curiosity of a deranged kitten. He loves to find out the facts and how everything works. I love him dearly. He was talking scientific instrument measurements, speaking about my contractions on the screen, and pointing out how it seems like I was hitting a peak wave due to the height of the wave, delta, alpha, blah, blah. And I'm like, no shit, honey. I'm sweating and moaning if you look at me instead of the screen. It was time for the epidural, and they let him watch. In fact, talked him through exactly how it worked. The anesthesiologist seemed excited to have a new assistant, in fact. I guess at some point, some spinal fluid shot out, and my husband shouted, "Honey, your spinal fluid looks about the viscosity of coconut water, and the needle is much larger than we expected. The doctor is going to try again because your vertebrae is wide," and he missed. I'm like, thanks for the graphic play-by-play, my love. The epidural ended up working great, and I'm not really squeamish about needles, etc., so it was more comical than horrifying.
Have you had your husband tested for autism, possibly? Jesus Christ.
I love that story, because usually husbands pass out, and he's just like, I'm in this.
No, my husband would for sure pass out. He was shaking when I was done, and I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, I almost beat the shit out of the anesthesiologist. I'm like, why? He's like, because he was hurting you.
Aww.
And right now I'm operating on instinct, and that man was hurting my wife and my unborn child, and I wanted to beat the shit out of him. And I was like, well, I'm glad you didn't, because this epidural is amazing.
Just doing his job.
Yeah,
even though
even after
needles.
Even after the baby was born, they took her for her hearing test. He's like, they took my baby. I'm like, it's cool, dog. It'll be all right. He's like, they took the baby. What if they hurt her? I'm like, well, they're not gonna hurt her. You can relax. He was like all instinct and feral. He was ready to kill over us.
Meanwhile, I was like, please take the baby for all of the testing. I just need the 15 minutes to just breathe. I need 15 minutes to just kind of soak in that I'm a mom now. That's what I needed. I said, can someone tell me that this really happened?
Nope. I want them babies on my soul.
Oh, I did. But then I said, give me a minute.
No, I never let them take them out of the room at all.
Oh, good for you.
Except like the hearing test, like I went with them for their first baths and everything. I know other people like leave them in the nursery overnight, but you know, that wasn't good for my breastfeeding journey.
I bet.
On my skin.
All right, mamas, that's it for today's episode of Mom AF. If you're walking away feeling a little more seen, a little more sane, or at least a little less alone, then we're doing our job.
And if you laughed, cringed, or yelled same at any point today, do us a favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on Instagram at Mom AF Podcast.
We're also doing a giveaway. One lucky listener is getting a Mom AF self-care package packed with our favorite goodies, snacks, and survival tools.
Find us on Instagram or Facebook at Mom AF the Podcast or Mom AF on Facebook. Comment what kind of AF you are. Likes and shares are always appreciated but not required. Winner gets a self-care gift set sent to their house. Time to get relaxed AF.
Love you. Mean it. See you next week.
Alright, babes, take care of your pelvic floor, drink some water, and remember. And remember, motherhood is a wild ride, but you're not in it alone. Bye. I love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
God, that was a painful ending.
Jesus.